These are 8 harsh truths that people 50 and older don't talk about, but they're true, and it's important we all know what they are, and I think we should talk about them more. And the first one is, we notice that this may be the last opportunity for us to change jobs. Unfortunately, ageism is real in the United States, and by the time you get to 60, it may be too late to switch jobs because it's just hard to get the attention of an employer and for them to give us the opportunity. So, your 50s, you begin to notice your friends, maybe that have switched jobs and had a harder time making it work, had a harder time opening doors, even if they're very skilled at what they do. Your 50s, your early 50s, you're probably okay. As you start to get to your late 50s, that chapter of the book becomes much harder to open up for people at that age. So it's important that we think about that and we plan accordingly. Okay, the next one that we don't talk about is many of us are getting divorced. This tends to be the age, your late 40s, your early 50s, where if you have kids, the kids are heading off to college. And now, if you've got a significant other, mom and dad, the couple are looking at each other and saying, okay, we raised the kids, and now what are we doing? Do we want to be in this relationship? Where oftentimes things are on autopilot while you've got 2, 3, 4 kids in the house and you're running them to different activities. It's the common ground between the couple is taking care of the kids, and it's an exhausting time of life, but it can be a really rewarding time of life. But we can also have drifted apart from one another, and we can be very different people by the time the youngest kid heads off to college than we were before we had our first kid. So that's one of the things that's called gray divorce. And unfortunately, it's the largest part of the US population with a growing divorce rate. Much of the US has a declining divorce rate, except for people 50 and older. Okay. The opposite of that, is that it can also be one of the happiest times in our lives. We've been carrying a lot of weight on our shoulders, trying to pay down that 30-year mortgage, trying to save up for the kids' college education, trying to save up for our retirement, and running the kids around. And little by little, even though we have a lot less free time than we had before kids, in comparison to what the last 15, 20, 25 years has been, it can feel like we have a lot of free time, and it can be very liberating. And studies have shown that there's this happiness dip and then an increase in happiness again. And that dip happens when, there's just a lot of pressures of life. And that increase in happiness happens as the kids head off to college, as you have more free time in your life. It's also a sad time, because it's a chapter of your life that was likely rewarding, exhausting, but rewarding, but that chapter's closing and a new one is opening up. Okay. Another one, number 4, is many of us are starting to feel old for the first time. When we first hit 30, it's like, I can't believe I'm 30 years old, but you still feel like you're in your 20s. When you're in your 40s, you still feel like you're maybe in your late 20s, but you're still in your 20s. You may not look that way anymore, but you still feel that way. But many people, by the time we hit our 50s, are beginning to feel a little bit older. We're not recovering as quickly. We're not bouncing back from injuries. So that can be kind of sad, feeling older for the first time. Um, and then your late 50s, we started the list with early 50s. Now I've got 8. This is number 5. But our late 50s can very much feel like go time. It's go time for savings. If you're behind, a lot of folks are doing the math and saying, I'm going to be in trouble if I don't really buckle down now and start saving. So it very much feels like go time. And you want to know where you're at. Many of us are going to be fine. We're on track. Many of us are super savers. And we've actually saved more And if that's you, either way, I think you should have a financial plan. So, if you're ahead of schedule, well, maybe you can enjoy your 50s more. Maybe you can ease off that gas a little bit, enjoy your 50s a little bit more, and spend a little bit more on yourself. And if you're a little behind, it's good to know that too. And that's why having a good financial plan is important. The gold standard for that is to work with a financial advisor that's a fiduciary to you. Many of my viewers prefer to do it themselves. If that's you, I urge you, don't use Google Sheets, don't use Excel. Frankly, it takes a lot of time to build your own financial plan. You're likely going to make a mistake. And the third reason is there's software designed for people like you and I that are very affordable. That's going to save you tens of hours, if not hundreds of hours, and give you more confidence that your plan is right. The software that I like is called Bolden. You can find the description in the link below. It used to be called New Retirement. Excellent software, very affordable. And if you use the link in the description, you'll be supporting the channel. Okay, let's keep going with our list. So we talked about it being go time for savings. It's also go time for a new pressure. And this is what I call the baloney phase of our lives. Not that we're saying that something is BS or baloney. About the older I get, the more I find myself doing that. But this is where you and we are the baloney, in a baloney sandwich. And what I mean is oftentimes in our 50s, our parents are starting to get older and need help with their health situation. They need more help than they ever had before. And we may have kids that still are in college or still need our help. So we're that bologna in the bologna sandwich. We're the slice in the middle there. And that can feel disheartening because, I mean, we want to spend more time with our parents, why we have the time with them, but it can also be like, "Oh, I thought this was the time I was gonna travel and I was gonna do these things on my bucket list." So from that standpoint, it can be disheartening, and it's why I came up with this phrase, "The youth of our senior years." I think from the time we're 50 to the time we lose our health, which for many people, unfortunately, is going to be our late 60s or 70s, or if we're fortunate, 80 years old. Um, and if you think about that, even at 60, if we have most of us are going to have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy active time remaining, and that's not much time. I'm going to circle back to that, but which is why number 7 here, our health, focusing on our health, investing in our health is so important. Um, for multiple reasons. We begin to look like, and we get to begin to feel like, and we begin to have the health consequences of our habits. I like to say we begin to look like our habits in our 50s. In our 30s and 40s, whether you have good habits or bad habits, there's not a big impact on our appearance. But more importantly, it's our health, but we start to get the consequences of that. So I urge you, if you haven't spent the time yet, invest the time in your health because it likely will pay off in spades later. And then, number 8 is we start to notice how our culture treats older people, and at least here in the US, in many ways, we kinda hide our older people. There are other cultures, in Asia that have a high level of respect for older people. I would argue Latin America has that. Here in the US, it's really more of a youth-driven society and culture, so we can begin to feel like we're beginning to get on the outside, which is that point about from a working standpoint. As we enter our 50s, that might be the last time that it's easy for us to transition. Careers transition to a new job. It becomes harder and harder as things go on, which is why it's important to think about when do we retire? What's the right age? Because the default of 65 is right around the time that many of us are going to lose our health. And it's why I made this video here, why waiting to 65 to retire might be a big mistake. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.